all rise for the midterms. I'm Michael Smerconish in Philadelphia. Historically, voter turnout for midterm elections is a big drop-off from presidential years. And usually, the more motivated voters are those from the party not occupying the White House. In midterms, since George W. Bush's second term, the party of the incumbent president has lost an average of more than 40 seats in the Senate and House combined. And all the Republicans need is a handful of congressional seats and one senator to put Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell back in control of the House and Senate, respectively. No doubt that explains this week's opposition of both those individuals to any congressional 9/11-style inquiry into the events of January 6. The inevitable drip, drip, drip of revelations that would result could bring nothing but harm to the GOP. And the release of any final report would coincide with the beginning of midterm campaign season. There remains, however, another midterm intangible that cannot be avoided by either party. Two cases will be heard this fall by the Supreme Court, which has been reshaped by 3 Trump-nominated justices. Rulings will come on 2 of the most hotly contested issues in American politics: abortion and gun rights. Here's a brief primer. The abortion case, Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, it seeks to overturn a Fifth Circuit court block of a Mississippi state law enacted in 2018, which banned abortions after 15 weeks. The Roe versus Wade precedent protects abortion rights at the point of viability or a gestational age of about 23 or 24 weeks for a fetus. The Mississippi case would reduce that timeline by about 2 months. And by the way, not to be outdone, this week Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a law that would effectively ban abortion after just 6 weeks. Take a look at this map. It shows the result of a New York Times analysis as to where abortion rights would be restricted if Roe were to be overturned. And then there's the gun case. Here, the precedent at issue is Justice Scalia's 2008 opinion in D.C. versus Heller, which interpreted the Second Amendment to mean that citizens have the right to gun ownership at home. Lower courts have been citing part of that decision that says the right is not unlimited to allow for some regulations. Now the court will rule on a New York law being challenged in the case, New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Corlett. It requires a resident to show demonstrable need to be licensed to carry a concealed handgun outside the home. In other words, the court is being asked to say that concealed carry is also a part of the Second Amendment. The Supreme Court takes the summer off. These 2 cases will be argued in the fall. Decisions will come in the spring or early summer of 2022. Should the court adopt conservative positions, that might remind a Republican base of the importance of White House control and spur a GOP turnout which retakes the House and Senate. Or it could motivate women and the young, which would advantage Democrats. But if you're gaming this out, there's one more consideration. Conservative rulings on abortion and guns might convince the president and Democrats to shed any reluctance they've had about expanding the size of the Supreme Court so as to counter the current ideological imbalance, which will otherwise likely continue beyond the Biden years. The president created a commission to study potential changes to the court in April. That commission met for the first time just this week. They're supposed to deliver a report to the president in about 6 months, or just about when the abortion and gun cases will have been argued. I want to know what you think. Go to my website at smerconish.com and answer this week's survey question: will Supreme Court decisions in 2022 on abortion and guns help Democrats, Republicans, or neither? Joining me now to discuss, the anchor of CNN's The Lead and State of the Union, as well as CNN's chief Washington correspondent and best-selling author, Jake Tapper. His new novel, The Devil May Dance, continues to follow the hero from his first novel, fictional Republican Congressman Charlie Martyr. He goes to Hollywood in the early 1960s. Hey, Jake, I'm loving the book. I'll ask you about it in just a moment. What do you make of my thought that the Supreme Court could really put its thumbprint on the midterm elections?
I think you're spot on, everything you said. I would say that there is also an argument that it will help Republicans in some states and help Democrats in other states. The idea that these cases, especially I have to say, especially I think the abortion case, and there really does seem to be a majority on the court. At the very least, the fact that they're taking up the case suggests that there are 5 justices willing to reconsider the precedent set by Roe v. Wade. I think it's pretty clear that there's 5 justices ready to do that right now. But it's also possible that this will be good to motivate Democrats in, for example, Virginia, to get the women and young voters and progressives out to vote in Virginia. And in other places, it might be good for Republicans. It does reaffirm, for example, this is probably the longest lasting legacy of the Trump years, for good in the eyes of conservatives. The idea that he got these 3 justices on the court, and then now instead of a divided court where Roberts is the swing justice, it's a 5-4 court if you put Roberts with the liberals. So it's really a 6-3 court. So that will reaffirm to conservatives, hey, we need to keep fighting for this. We're winning.
One wonders if these events could overturn the, I think, traditional path, which has been that Republicans and conservatives much more consider this issue when they vote for presidents of the United States than do Democrats and progressives.
Exactly. I mean, this has been more of a motivating force for conservatives, for Republicans in the past. But right now, because Republicans have been so singularly focused on the Supreme Court and the judicial nominees. Remember, this is why Mitch McConnell and other Republicans went along with Trump for so long, because he let them do what they wanted to do with judges. I think it is entirely possible that this will have the effect of motivating women, motivating young people, motivating progressives, because it's true that abortion rights really do hang in the balance. It's not Chicken Little, the sky is falling. It really could happen. I mean, look, I'm no Supreme Court analyst, but it looks to me, based on what I've read of these justices, that there are 5 votes to affirm the Mississippi law. And if that law is affirmed as constitutional, the ban on abortion after 15 weeks with punishments for physicians if they violate it, then what's to say that Greg Abbott's law in Texas that you referred to, which essentially bans abortion. I mean, they say they've banned it after 6 weeks, but a lot of women don't even know they're pregnant before 6 weeks into a pregnancy. So it essentially bans abortion. What does that mean? Does a ruling in favor of the Mississippi law set a precedent that the Texas law can go forward?